Okay.
I have water. You got good water here, ma'am.
We're live.
Oh, sorry.
How's it going, everybody? That was a new little song there. Pretty hip and catchy. All right, so I'm going to grab the video techie here because, look at this, guys. If you're watching on the live stream, look at it. It's just a picture of yesterday. Terry Cosgrove's sitting right there.
Yo, TC.
Ben's right there. There's me leaning. I got horrible posture.
Hey, sit up straight.
All right, so
take a look around.
Hang tight with us, guys. Just listen along, and we'll get the video going here. I mean, like, we look the same as we do every day, but I'm sure you guys like watching the video here.
My pen.
Let's see. All right, so it looks like we're good. Okay, Ben's looking for his pen.
Hey, what happened to my pen?
Signs of a tough day here on the bench. What happened to me? Do you want to borrow my pen? Here.
I got so many pens.
Well, we're live. Here.
No, but you're going to need a pen.
Oh, goodness. I'll figure it out. Okay, so what we'll do, all right, we do a song of the day to make sure everybody can hear us. We'll go to the live stream audience. Any requests for Ben to sing?
Oh, there you go.
Any requests?
All right, here we go.
Looks like not. Okay.
Got a pen. There, you can have your
Excellent.
pen back.
Excellent. Throw that back to me. All
Nice
right,
catch.
buddy. There we go.
Take a look around.
Okay, so I guess he just gave away his song of the day. So, Ben, let's go ahead and hear that song of the day.
Take a look around. Take a look around. That was a song that was playing on the radio yesterday as Dennis, Maya, and I drove over to the Hideout for First Tuesday. We were rocking out. Yo, right, D?
Oh, yeah. I was doing air drums.
D was doing air drums. Maya was playing air organ. I was playing air guitar. D was smoking a doobie.
Okay.
Man, we had. Oh,
No,
sorry,
I
man.
wasn't
We
smoking
not
pot.
smoking a doobie.
I wasn't smoking pot. Oh, Pat Whalen says that's the Chinatown theme.
Negatory. I don't know. Man, I sing so bad. That's rock and roll. The China.
Oh, no. His request was the Chinatown theme. I see, because I said request. Okay, so I think you guys can hear us. Pat Rod said Drain You, that Nirvana song.
Oh.
Pat Rod, he's actually in the last few weeks or so has heard some Nirvana.
Yeah,
Ben, why
man.
don't you tell him your overall thoughts on Nirvana?
Nirvana, man. They were playing them at the bowling alley the other night. Something like that.
Daryl,
I miss the 90s, guys. I just got to tell you that. I was sort of oblivious, raising kids and doing my thing and coaching, and I just missed the 90s of music. Missed a lot of the movies, but I've caught up, D. Okay? Caught up.
All right. The nonsense is over, guys. I think we're ready here.
Let's get down to business.
The Ben Joravsky Show for your Wednesday, November 6th, is just moments away. But before we get into that, we need to thank the following unions for jumping on board and sponsoring this program. First up, it's the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 in District 8. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150, and of course, today's show is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Ben, let's hear that song of the day one more time, buddy.
Take a look around.
The Ben Joravsky Show. The Ben Joravsky Show starts now. It is Wednesday, November 6th, and live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, it's another Monroe midweek with legendary Chicago journalist Monroe Anderson. It's the return of election lawyer Adolfo Mondragon, and we welcome President of the Cook County Teachers Union, Tony Johnston. And now your host, still president of nothing, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this We Shall See Wednesday, and here's why. Great night last night at the Hideout. Packed house for First Tuesday.
That's correct.
That is correct. Robert Mueller, Stacey Davis Gates, of course, was our featured guest on stage with Maya and myself. Maya made her debut, did a very good job, in my humble opinion. And right after Stacey talked about all the twists and the turns and the ups and the downs of the Chicago teachers strike, we went to questions. First question from the front row, from our very own Frank. Frank had his hand in the air and said, the ball is in your court, Frank. And he asked the question, hey, Stacey, you going to run for mayor in 2023? Let's just get right down to it, okay? We just had the election in April, but that's how we do it in Chicago, folks. One election just bleeds in the next one. It was the great question. It was on everybody's mind. So kudos, Frank, for asking it. And what was Stacey's answer, D? A bit of a duck and a dodge, as I recall. It was like she didn't say no. She didn't say yes. She said she was honored and humbled by the question. And then she just sort of, and I was like, wait, did she say yes? Did she say no? Oh, who knows? Anyway, in Chicago, like I said, it's barely an end to an election season. Democrats love fighting each other so much. My advice for Stacey and Lori and the teachers union and the mayor, maybe you guys can work it out, you know? Like the Beatles said, we can work it out, D. What do you think? Huh? Maybe they can work it out.
Just don't sing it.
Don't see it. Meanwhile, while we were having our great First Tuesday show, across the country, the Democrats were sending a message. Big night for the Dems yesterday, particularly in Virginia. The Dems took control of the Senate, the state Senate, and the state House. They already had the governor. Ralph Northam is the governor, a Democrat. That means they'll control the remapping process after the 2020 census. The happiest man in the world is Terry Cosgrove, a personal pack. We had Terry on the show yesterday. Terry, of course, the head of the largest reproductive rights lobbyist group here in the state of Illinois, and is a very much in tune with what's going on politically around the country. And Terry and I see eye to eye in the whole quote-unquote fair maps movement. Fair maps movement is a suckers movement. This is my words, not Terry, which Democrats in states where they control the legislative process, where they control the governor, where they control the House, are supposed to say, oh, yes, fair is fair. Let's allow the Republicans to have a hand in shaping the map so we take away our advantage. Meanwhile, in every other state in the union where the Republicans have the advantage, they're crushing Democrats, just crushing them. So it's really hard to play fair when only one side is playing fair. Fair map, people. That's just my general attitude about fair maps. Fair maps means Republican maps and Democrats being suckers. Anyway, in Virginia, the Democrats will get to draw the map, and the sobbing you hear is Donnie Trump and the Republicans, because they won't be allowed to gerrymander. Oh, poor babies. Speaking of sobbing from Republicans, the big news out of Kentucky. While we were having our discussion at First Tuesday, by the way, Dr. D was there. A lot of people are like asking for autographs and taking pictures, selfies with the young doctor there.
I spilled a beer.
Yes, you did.
Dropped it on the floor. It didn't break. But
wasn't that Maya's beer that you were bringing her?
Yeah, I was like, hey, happy First Tuesday. Here's a beer.
Oops.
Dropped it on the floor.
Then I saw somebody cleaning up. I don't know who that was. Anyway.
It smelled like beer the whole night.
Yes, the doctor was there. And anyway, so while we were at First Tuesday, Andy Beshear, the Democrat, defeated Matt Bevin, the Republican, in the gubernatorial race in Kentucky. That is correct. Ladies and gentlemen, a Democrat was victorious in the governor's race in Kentucky.
Let's do the Kentucky fight song. Dun, 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 dun. I don't know what it is.
Isn't like
most fight songs sound like that, though,
right?
It's
like Notre Dame, I thought. Da, 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 da. Now I'm gonna have this. Da, 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 da. Sorry. Anyway,
Kentucky.
Yeah, let me go back to the Boston song that we were saying. That was the song that was playing on the radio. By the way, little known secret about Dr. D. People don't know this. He loves classic rock.
Yes, I do.
I did not know that.
Correct.
Until he took control of the radio dial and was like, take a look around. Anyway.
Favorite classic rock band? Thin Lizzy. Just said it right there.
I know a Thin Lizzy song.
Yes, you do.
Wait, time out. Are they ones? They're not the ones who sing "The Boys Are Back in Town." I love
that's
that
them.
song. Back at Dino's, huh? Dino's Bar and Grill. All right. Anyway, Mitch McConnell's home state in Kentucky. Mitch McConnell, of course, being the diabolical genius, evil genius who runs the Senate and is always crushing the Democrats' hope. Everybody absolutely says that the key to passing progressive legislation is to take back the Senate, so you don't have Mitch McConnell in a position to stifle it and smother it and do things like bury the Democrats' state Supreme Court nominees, as he did with Barack Obama back in 2016. Anyway, so it was a big win for the Democrats. They eked it out, very close election. Does that mean that Mitch McConnell could be in trouble? Now, That's a little ahead of us, folks. I don't think the primary will be, the gubernatorial primary in Kentucky will be until May. And the Democrats have a very contested race. Amy McGrath is viewed as the front runner. She, of course, is the former Marine pilot. She ran for Congress last year and lost to a Republican, but now she's back at it. Very much a centrist moderate. My lefty Democrats are very upset with her. They always tell me, Benny, she's too moderate, too centrist. And I'm like, guys, Kentucky's not like Logan Square, all right? Sometimes you just got to adopt to where people are instead of trying to oppose your views on them. I don't know. That's just me saying that, D.
Understatement of the year right there. Kentucky is not Logan Square.
Yeah, we want a candidate that could win in Logan Square. Well, I don't know, I mean, I don't know if Kentucky is quite like Logan Square. Anyway, so we'll be watching that one. Of course, it'll answer the Meredith Shiner question, and that question is this. Meredith Shiner was a guest on the show, a very astute observer of politics, and she said that if Mitch McConnell senses that his control of the Senate will be jeopardized by Donald Trump and the impeachment movement, he will turn on Donald John Trump like that. So what he's probably doing right now, D, is studying the election results in yesterday's Kentucky race to see where the Democrat Beshears was strongest, where the Republican Matt Bevin was weakest, whether those votes will translate into votes, those Beshear votes will translate into Amy McGrath votes. And by the way, the Libertarian Party, I think, picked up 2% of the vote in that race. You got to figure those votes would have gone to Bevin. And in a normal circumstance. So will the Libertarians be a factor in 2020? These are all things that I'm sure Mitch McConnell will be figuring out.
Here's Mitch McConnell studying.
That's how he does it, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have to bring Meredith Shiner back to see what her prediction is. She said that Mitch McConnell will buckle and turn on Donald John Trump if he thinks his survival is at stake. I doubt it, but we shall see. We got a great show today, everybody. Monroe Anderson will be here. He is the happiest man in all of Chicago because he's been predicting Donald John Trump is going down for a long time. I've talked to him already. He goes, Benny, you see those results in Kentucky? I told you. So we'll be talking about the results yesterday with Monroe. We'll be doing a Donald Trump update. We'll be talking about impeachment stuff with him. What the heck is going on in Washington yesterday while we were discussing local news? Gordon Sondland, one of the top envoys that Donald Trump had appointed to the European Union, flipped his testimony apparently in closed congressional hearings about Ukraine Gate. And all of a sudden is saying, yes, indeed, it was quid pro quo. It was extortion. Well, that's my words, extortion. Donald Trump did make it clear to the Ukrainians that if they did not announce they were doing this phony investigation into Joe Biden and Joe Biden's son, then Donald Trump, would not release aid that Congress had approved. Aha! The plot thickens. So, Monroe is going to be eager to talk about that. Trump's tax case heading for the Supremes. Will Donald Trump finally have to release his tax information? We'll be talking about that as well, and the national politics. Adolfo Mondragon will be stopping by as well. Probably do some crosstalk with Monroe. And he just filed a complaint with the Illinois Board of Elections having to do with Danny Solis, the alderman. Can Danny Solis, or Ed Burke for that matter, take campaign funds that people donate to them for their political cause and use it to pay off their criminal defense lawyers? We'll take the deep dive with that with Adolfo. Yeah, folks, come on now. I love the Democrats, but we can't allow shady, corrupt Democrats to take over our party, right, D?
Oh, more on that in moments.
Ooh, that's called what? Foreshadowing? What's it called in radio terms?
It's called a tease.
Oh, a tease.
You're embarrassing us.
And these are cans. Anyway, and then Tony Johnston, who is the president of Cook County Teachers Union, will be in the studio, talk about apparently there's trouble at Triton College and labor troubles there. So we'll have Tony Johnston talking union news. But before we do any of that, the young man from Alton, the pride and joy of the 618, with the news.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Let's begin with what's happening in Illinois and or Chicago this afternoon. And hey, if there's any new listeners out there, maybe listening for the first time, although he's called me one every day, going on literally 2.5 years, still not sure why. I'm not a doctor. My name's Dennis. Hey, Ben, good news. The Illinois governor we've grown to love is back in full swing.
Oh.
That's right. That femur injury had him on the shelf and for a hot minute there, but the man is back at it.
After years of neglect, Illinois is finally getting its mojo back.
All right, jury's still out on that one. But hey, you sure are getting your mojo back, Mr. Pritzker. Right now, in my face, thanks to Illinois Politico. Go subscribe to that, by the way. Fantastic way to catch up on the daily local news. But right now in my face is a Wednesday schedule full of public events for J.B. Pritzker. That's right, with a fully functioning femur. His day began at Four Seasons Park in Plainfield. We've been to Plainfield.
Yes, we have. We were, what highway was that? I can't remember.
That was a long time ago.
I remember there was a river somewhere near. Remember the river, D? You talk about the river. It was the Fox River, wasn't it?
No, it was a different place.
Oh, sorry. No, there was a river. There was definitely a river. Anyway.
The river in Plainfield. Frank, weigh in if you can. All right. He then went to Lombard Golf Course to highlight Rebuild Illinois projects in Will and DuPage County. Did he golf? I don't know. Ben Joravsky. Is Governor J.B. Pritzker a golfer?
I do not know the answer to that question, but my guess is no. Just don't think he's a golfer. I don't know. I never seen a picture of him golfing. Maybe I missed it.
What about you? Are you a golfer?
Negatory, to quote Norm. I've gone golfing twice in my life. Once, when I was about 16, my friends and I snuck on a golf course in Evanston. We snuck on the course. We had one club that we shared, and then we got about 2 rounds in, and then the guy runs the course. Hey, get off of that course!
Radical.
And then, we snuck on the course, and then my only quote unquote legitimate golfing outing took place about 20 years ago with my dear friend Milo. He was going through a golfing phase, and he dragged me. That was the most boring day. I was like literally falling asleep, wasn't it? But I do like miniature golf.
Miniature golf is a good time.
Yeah, I like miniature golf.
I agree with you there.
Not a golfer.
All right, well, there you go, listeners. If you ever wondered, oh, man, I wonder if Ben Joravsky would ever like to go golfing with me. No, he wouldn't.
Not a golfer. Oh, it's so boring. Good God.
So J.B. Pritzker did that. And finally tonight, the governor will speak at the Midwest Airlines Gala reception at the Spertus Institute. He really likes galas, folks. Last night, Governor Pritzker gave a speech at the Cook County Democrats fundraiser. It was held at the Michigan Avenue Hilton. He talked about our 45th president, Donald J. Trump, and surprise, none of it was flattering.
I don't blame him. There's not really a lot of flattering stuff to say about Donald John Trump.
But the governor then transitioned to that big problem happening right here in Illinois. It's that damn dirty word that comes up a little too often for my liking in this daily local news segment, if you ask me. Corruption.
Oh, my beloved Democrats.
Once again, if you're a new listener to this program, or maybe a new citizen of Illinois, hi, welcome to Illinois. We're pretty shady. Even the Democrats.
Even? I would take even out of that sentence. My
Especially
beloved
the Democrats.
Especially the Democrats. Oh, my God, my beloved Democratic Party.
Okay, so I have corruption quotes from the governor to read. Remember, just in the last year, we've had 4, maybe 5 Democratic Illinois politicians have their offices raided by federal agents,
Hold
one
on.
of which...
Let me see if I can count them.
All
Let's
right.
see if I could do this off of the top. Did you say 4 or 5?
Yeah.
Alderwoman Austin... raid. And you say elected. Oh boy. Marty Sandoval. State Senator Marty Sandoval. That's 2. I'm doing this off the top of my head, ladies and gentlemen, and I smoked a lot of reefer back in 1980. 3 would be. I'm thinking of Cook County. City Club Gate, but that's not a. Was Louis Arroyo's office raided? I don't think his office was raided.
Oh,
yeah,
maybe right.
I think you're saying that offices. I think there's been indictments and investigations. Alderman Ed Burke. How can I forget Ed Burke?
How can you?
And I believe Alderman Brian Ernst's office was raided. No, just kidding. That's
Alderman / video techie Brian Ernst?
Yeah, I think his office was raided. And they found he had this like illegal movies videos that he had secretly downloaded from the 90s there. So anyway, I'm just kidding. Brian Ernst, of course, is the technical wizard who runs the entire Chicago Sun-Times.
So how many you got on your list there?
I have 3. I have Austin, Sandoval, and Burke. I'm not sure if Arroyo's offices were actually raided, so I can't put him on the list.
See, I said 4, maybe 5, 3, maybe 4.
Okay.
How about that?
That's good, yeah.
All right, so here are the quotes from Pritzker last night. Let's see here. Quote, What's so funny?
Just the thought of Brian Ernst's office being raided. He's got a beautiful. I've been in Brian's office many times. Can't imagine. There's not really a lot to raid there, but anyway, go ahead.
We're back on video.
All right. Thank you, Brian Ernst.
Wave to the camera, Ben. All right, or just do that pointy thing you do. Either one, I guess. Guess it means the same. Okay, let's read the quotes from Pritzker last night. Quote. By the way, it's about corruption.
Okay.
Welcome to Illinois, if you just now moved to Illinois. Quote, I'm furious watching public officials, some from our own party, betray the public trust. I am disgusted that some people in politics seem to think the old way of doing politics is the right way of doing politics, and it's time to change the way politics is done in this state, period.
Yes, indeed. Time to change your evil ways. Speaking of a great song from the 60s.
Pritzker then announced that he plans to push lobbying reforms to root out corruption, saying that he'll return to Springfield next week to help craft legislation that would help shed light on lobbyists through, quote, a series of ethics reforms that are, frankly, long overdue.
Well, I got to tell you, folks, I've lived through a lot of corruption investigations here in the state of Illinois, dealing with politicians, dealing with judges, and it always seems as though when it's all over, everybody shakes their head and go, I am disgusted. I am outraged. This must not be allowed to happen again. We're going to pass laws to prevent it. And then somehow or other, guess what, D? It happens again. And I'm not sure if it's something in particular to Illinois and Chicago, or is this just human nature, to quote Michael Jackson. Is this just the way human beings are across the board? You know what? I spent so much of my time utterly obsessed with local politics. I'd never taken like a deeper dive into the behavior of politicians outside of Chicago. For instance, I'm always writing about the TIF program here in the city of Chicago and what a scam it is. And then, you know, when I give talks or in front of groups of people, one of the first questions that's generally asked of me is, do other cities have TIFs? Are other cities, and I say, yes, of course, it's a standard practice to raise money to fund projects. And then people will say, well, are other cities' TIF programs as corrupt and as misguided as Chicago's? And I have to say, I do not know, because I haven't studied them. So it's the same thing with politicians. Are Chicago's politicians more corrupt than, let's say, politicians in Cleveland? Or in downstate Alton, where Young Doctor is from.
Oh, shady business going on there.
I do not know the answer. I've never been a reporter in downstate Alton. You know, I bet I'd find a lot of shady stuff going on in Alton, D, if I set up. Can you imagine if Maya set up shop down in Alton?
Oh, my goodness.
Could they throw her out of town? So she's too tough on those politicians. So I do not know the answer as to whether Chicago or Illinois is more corrupt than, let's say, New York. I know, oh my God, there's so much corruption in the state of New York. Boston, there was a lot of corruption in Boston. Missouri was infamous for corruption. So, you know, I'm starting to think, D, it's just human nature. You understand what I'm saying? As opposed to something in the drinking water in Chicago. There is some Chicago behavior that I find really annoying, and that's like the general notion that you just got to get along, you know, to go along, to get along, and all that stuff. And that's how Chicagoans can keep electing the same old, same old. But I don't know if we're any more corrupt than any other establishment.
Okay. And also, J.B. Pritzker, I mean, I hate to bring it back up, but he had that toilet thing, too.
Plumbergate. Yeah. How can I forget that? Thank you for I hate to bring it up.
He's not a perfect person.
I hate to bring it up, he says, as he brings it up. Yeah, how can we forget J.B. Pritzker?
So let me ask you this. This is off the cuff here. So Bruce Rauner, when he ran, he talked about like the corrupt politicians in Illinois.
Yeah.
Is Bruce Rauner right a little bit?
Yeah, and that's a guy I would really take advice from in this. If you recall, Bruce Rauner hired Stewie Levine. Remember Stewie Levine in the Teachers Pension Fund? Remember Bruce Rauner before he was governor? I like Stewie. So, you know, listen. My general attitude when it comes to Bruce Rauner is he is what they call a phony. Do you get it, D? I mean, when it was working for him, he was happy to play with Illinois Democrats, and he was endorsing Daley and signing on to Rahm and all that
Loving
stuff.
the teachers.
Yay for our teachers. Yay for our teachers.
But then he wanted to really sock it to the teachers union and get more power and money for people like him. And so he waged war against the unions. And to do that, he suddenly had to pretend as though he was a great reformer. So, you know what? I have no faith pretty much in any Republican in this current age of Donald John Trump who claims that he's a reformer and wants to clean up the swamp. Isn't that interesting? Donald Trump, there's another one. He's going to clean up the swamp. Remember the $50,000 he gave to Rahm Emanuel? Remember that, young Dennis? I remind Dennis of that every day. We're on that train going home, and we see the Trump building with the big Trump sign, and Dennis goes, like my building? And I always go, yeah, that $50,000 campaign contribution gave to Rahm Emanuel paid off for you, Donnie. So, yeah, Republicans are hypocritical on this front, D. You know it as well as I do.
So, J.B. Pritzker, that was his speech last night at the Democratic, Cook County Democrats party or whatever. But J.B. Pritzker wasn't the only one on the bill. No, sir. Also giving a speech was our Chicago mayor, Lori Lightfoot.
Double L.
Double L has been just called her. Yeah, she trashed Trump in her speech, too. She called him the most dangerous president in our history. But she spoke on our select corrupt Democratic Illinois politicians as well. Lightfoot called on Dems to, quote, stand for equity, for racial and economic justice, for worker justice, for gender justice, for environmental justice, for immigration justice, and for the ethical conduct of government. We can't pretend that this party has been pure or exempt from self-dealing or misconduct. We can, however, apply a higher standard to ourselves and to our party going forward. We can resolve to turn the page. Those days need to be over. Definitively.
I agree with her 100%. It's really interesting. See, this is that's the rhetoric of candidate Lori Lightfoot when she was running for mayor. That's what I liked about her, D. Talking about economic justice and social justice, and she came to the hideout just like Stacey Davis Gates did, and at that time was Mick Dumke. Told us right to our face, I'm against Lincoln Yards, and I'm for more nurses in the school. I think in her heart of hearts, she wants to do the right thing. You become mayor of the city of Chicago, there's a lot of pressures on you. All of a sudden, you got to deal with the Tribune and the corporate Chicago going, you got to crush those teachers, stamp them on like a bug. And so there's a lot of pressures on her. But I think in her heart of hearts, she wants to do the right thing. So here for that. And in terms of corruption, absolutely. It's about time the Democrats cleaned up their house. There's just this notion, this attitude that, it's like real politics in Chicago if you get down and dirty. We got Adolfo Mondragon coming in here later on, and he knows a thing or two about how Chicago politics is played. He's an election law lawyer. He's run for office. He worked for Ed Burke, so it'll be interesting to see what he has to say. But that attitude, that Chicago attitude is so prevalent. Get down and dirty. That's what we need, down and dirty, all right? Practical. So
One more time, down and dirty.
Down and dirty, okay? I'm not from Chicago, folks. I moved here, and that's the first thing. He's down and dirty. Can cut a deal.
It's some Rhode Island thing he's doing there. Down and dirty. Keep that in Rhode Island, pal.
By the way, you talk about corruption. Rhode Island. Woo! The mayor of Rhode Island, forget his name. Frank, what's his name? I think it was Buddy or something like that. Man, that dude was so corrupt.
He's down and dirty.
Down and dirty. All right, that's what we like. Our politicians get down and dirty.
All right, today Mayor Lightfoot joined. We're moving on from that speech.
Moving on up.
He's still doing that. All right, today
Mayor, got a piece of the pie.
Today, Mayor Lightfoot joined Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois for a groundbreaking ceremony of its new Morgan Park Center. Apparently, it used to be a Target. Ben, for 10 trivia points, what ward is Morgan Park in?
Well, this ward, it's divided among several wards, but I believe this is the 34th ward.
Okay, and who is the alderman of the 34th ward?
It would be Alderwoman Carrie Austin.
All right.
Did I get it right?
By the way, she's on that list you just made, right?
What list? Oh, yeah. I already forgot that list. The list of the three Democratic politicians from Cook County whose offices were raided by the feds. Let's not forget the City Club, all right, D? Let's not forget the City Club. Their offices were raided by the feds, too. Just say. By the way, did I ever tell you I'm a member of the City Club?
Oh, yeah. We've been milking that one for a long time, buddy.
Yeah.
All right, here's Lori Lightfoot at Morgan Park today.
Mm-hmm. You'll remember about a year ago when Target announced that it was leaving this site. There's a lot of consternation, a lot of people upset, not only because of the lack of notice, but also the devastating effect that this would have on the economy. And the fact that Blue Cross Blue Shield now is coming into this site and not only claiming the space, but bringing far more jobs and far more opportunity in this space is like the story of the phoenix rising from the ashes. So congratulations, Blue Cross Blue Shield, on doing a great service, not only for this community, but for the city of Chicago.
Is that you in the crowd clapping?
Yeah, man, I am clapping. I think that's awesome. So thank you, Blue Cross. All right. Well, it actually made sense to them. They moved in, and I think it's wonderful.
All right. And hey, why not? It's one of those politicians we were talking about whose office was raided. Here's Carrie Austin speaking at the event as well.
When Target left us, as I said, it left us devastated. What will we do with all of this space? Many of you know that I do say first giving all praises and honor to God, because when I told God about this, he talked to who? Maurice. And I'm grateful that he did, because now we have hope. We have a breath of fresh air. We have something that we can look forward to out in the 34th Ward, the far south side of Chicago. Because when we say south, we say far south.
Maurice would be the planning chief for the city of Chicago. I don't know, bringing God into it, but whatever. Everybody has their own political beliefs, their religious beliefs. So it's good, I guess, not to be humble and give credit to a greater source when something good happens. Yeah, I don't know if it was divine intervention. I presume it was a business decision on the part of Blue Cross. And let's face it, it's probably made sense to them financially. And so they made the move. So good for them. All right. So I give thanks to Blue Cross. How about that, D? I'm giving thanks for them for moving in and keeping that building from being vacant.
All right, so there you are. That's what's going on locally this afternoon. We'll keep you posted on those stories as today's program rolls along. We're going to you, everybody. First on the Ben Joravsky Show Facebook page, Frank weighed in. What's up, Frank? Frank says here, he's got the mayor here. Buddy Cianci was the correct mayor of Providence, Rhode Island.
I said Buddy or Buster. Yeah, that dude was so corrupt. So you see, it's not just Chicago. Thank you, Frank. By the way, great question last night. Poor Stacy. First question right out of the box. Boom. Are you running for mayor in 2023? And I believe Stacy's response was a little along the lines of, Duck and Dodge.
Oh, it looks like Kyle's weighing in on the YouTube live stream chat. Thank you very much, Kyle. He has a pop quiz for you.
Uh-oh.
Who's the current mayor of Rhode Island?
The current mayor of Providence, Rhode Island?
Providence, Rhode Island. Yeah.
I'm just going to take a wild guess and say Antonio Correa.
Oh.
I do not know. Monroe Anderson is the mayor of Providence, Rhode Island.
I knew it.
No, I do not know who the mayor of Providence. I should. I haven't been in Providence, Rhode Island since the 70s. So,
all right. Well, you may need to take a trip back, buddy. Yeah. Come on, maybe for the holidays, huh?
Yeah, maybe. Although I'm going in the other direction for the holidays, but that's a long story. We don't need to go into that.
All right, everybody, don't go anywhere, because coming up after this break, we got Monroe Anderson in the building. He's going to be talking all things Trump. Well, look at that smile on his face.
No, he's got the smile and that super cool hat, which I'm very jealous of, by the way. I want a hat just like that, man.
I don't think you can pull that hat off.
I know, like Jackie Brown.
All right, don't go anywhere, everybody, because coming up, we're going to be talking with Monroe Anderson. It's the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times. The Ben Joravsky Show is supported by Northwestern University's part-time master's program in literature and liberal studies. Students learn from dynamic and diverse faculty as they build advanced skills for critical analysis, writing, and research. Evening classes are held on Northwestern's Evanston and Chicago campuses. The spring quarter application deadline is January 15th. Learn more at sps.northwestern.edu/masters.
Right now,
Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan.
Hey, podcast fans. That's you, right? Because you're listening to a podcast. The Sun-Times political web series, The Fran Spielman Show, is now available as a podcast. The Fran Spielman Show features weekly interviews with the lawmakers, journalists, and others who are shaping our city. Fran holds nothing back. She goes deep into City Hall to bring you the real scoop on Chicago politics. And now you can listen to her show on all, that's ALL, all of your favorite podcast apps. Head to City Hall with Fran and get even more great political coverage from the Chicago Sun-Times. Last week's Fran Spielman Show featured Jesse Sharkey, and, well, that's the president of the Chicago Teachers Union, and the vice president, SDG, Stacey Davis Gates. Go check it out. Listen and subscribe now at suntimes.com/Fran-show. That's suntimes.com/FRAN-show. Welcome back to the BEN Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Monroe Anderson in the studio. He's been a regular on my show ever since I've had a show, and he's been making
Day one.
Right. Day one, this
Day
man.
one, yes.
The first Monday, and it was Monroe Monday. Now it's midweek or midday?
Monroe midweek.
Oh, man.
Thanks, alliteration.
Monroe midweek. Man, Monroe, it's all that
I
reefer I
love
spoke.
alliteration.
But anyway, and one thing that's been consistent about Monroe from the get-go, which is why I think he's so popular with my listeners, he has been consistently predicting that Donald Trump was going to get impeached, that Donald Trump, the voters were going to turn on Donald Trump. And Monroe, there's so many nervous Nellies out there in the Democratic Party.
Oh, I know.
I know they're, I'm nervous, I'm afraid. And you've been steady,
I
man.
got struck by lightning once. It might happen again.
Yeah.
It's not raining outside.
That's exactly
collusion.
right. No collusion. And so let's...
No hoax.
No
Oh,
hoax.
Just a hoax.
So let's just start with yesterday's elections. The one in Kentucky in particular. Virginia, the Democrats took the House and the Senate.
Yes.
And in Kentucky, Andy Beshear, the Democrat, defeated Matt Bevin, the Republican, the incumbent governor. And now the Democrats, as hard as this is for me to believe, have the governor's seat in Kentucky, which is a very Trump state.
Yeah, except that it's happened before. In fact, the last Democratic governor was Jim Beshear's father.
That was a few governors back. So.
Yeah, a couple of governors
And
back.
the reason why I say it's hard for me to believe is that when I think of Kentucky, it's the home state of Mitch McConnell,
Right.
And it's a state that Donald Trump won by, I want to say
30.
Well, thank you, 30. I was going to say like 17, but it
Yeah,
was 30.
30,
He
yeah.
trounced Hillary Clinton
Right.
in Kentucky.
Yeah.
So what's your sense of reading the tea leaves?
First of all, Beshear, his father was popular and well known. He is. Okay. Thing one. Thing two was that Bevins was Trump before Trump. He is a total jerk. Everybody hates him there. And he went against the teachers union. He killed Medicare. And he did a whole bunch of horrible things. I mean, he calls people names. I mean, he's Trump.
He's Trump.
He's the local Trump.
Yeah.
Right.
Everything you just said sounds like everything that Donald Trump does, and yet somehow or other, voters in Kentucky held Bevins in contempt for that, but they seem to be applauding Trump. Or do you think in Kentucky the same thing would be happening to Donald John Trump?
Not sure. Because what's really interesting in Kentucky is all the rest of the ticket went Republican. Mm-hmm. I mean, Democrats didn't make any headways anywhere else but in the governor's seat. So we'll have to see. The thing is, in the suburbs, Bevins did. Beshear did a lot better than he had done. That has happened to other Democrats. The suburbs went Democratic instead of Republican. And that's mainly, I think, because of white women.
Explain that.
Trump has alienated white from the grabbing of the pussies on. We're podcasts.
Right, you could say whatever you want.
Exactly.
And by the way, Monroe Anderson has said whatever he's wanted ever since we moved to this little room here in the Sun-Times building.
Yeah.
Correct. Thank you. Robert Mueller agrees.
Exactly. So women. When he won, there was a big protest the day after the inauguration, had this women's march on Trump. So he has never, and it's just grown because
We did get 54% of the white women vote.
Before
53 or 54, yeah.
It was those white women that are now mad at him. Yeah, it was white women in the suburbs who voted for him. They gave him the 54.
And so do you think he's actually going to be below 50% among white women in the suburbs?
Yeah, for sure. I think he's lost. I'm trying to remember, but it's double digits support among women, white women. Black women have been staunchly against him. I mean, I think they're like 95%.
Well, that gets to the no. You know me, my position on this one. So, I mean, you're going on polls. By the way, we're going to have, I just want to promote this. Henry Davis will be coming in as a bonus guest today after the show's over. We're going to drop that over the weekend. And he, of course, is the councilman from South Bend, Indiana, who's very much an opponent of Mayor Pete. And
brother of Stacey Davis.
That is correct. But he likes to think of himself as his own man, right?
Oh, yeah,
So don't make that mistake and call him Henry Davis Gates.
But that may, may appeal to listeners a little more. Stacey Davis Gates' brother
his
will be
younger brother, and who's been on the show. I think this will be his third time, Monroe. And
does he get a special jacket after 5 appearances or something?
No, you don't get you get a letter, like a letter. You get like then you don't get the jacket until it's like, I think, 4 times on the show, like a Letterman's jacket, but you get the letter that you get to put on there. But anyway, he's got this theory. We've had this argument. I have had this argument down through the years with so many people, where he was telling me that in his humble opinion, Donald Trump is more popular among black voters than Pete Buttigieg. Now, part of the reason he says that, we'll be taking a deep dive with Henry Davis in that interview, is because he doesn't like Pete Buttigieg.
Exactly,
okay?
right, exactly.
So it'd be like if you were to say Donald Trump is more popular than Rahm Emanuel, let's say, among black voters.
Yeah.
Well, you actually don't have a strong opinion about Rahm. If I were to say that, I wouldn't say that in a million years, no matter what I think about Rahm Emanuel, because I think Donald Trump is widely reviled by black voters, and we have a tendency.
What do we have to lose?
What do you mean?
By hating him. Remember, I mean, that was his position on the black community.
Yes.
Vote for him. What do you have to lose?
What do you have to lose?
Right.
As opposed to what do you have to gain?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Most voters, you're right. Most voters are like, I gained something from this.
And not only that, he's the one who rode through the South Side and said he didn't see how those people could live like this.
He did? I don't remember that one.
Yeah, this was a few years back.
Wow.
Yeah.
But anyway, so what's your I know do you share that belief that Donald Trump is more popular with black voters than Mayor Pete?
No.
Okay.
No.
Me neither. I completely disagree with that. All right. So
and it's easy. I think it'd be easy enough to check, and that's to Google how many black votes he got in the last mayoral election.
And that's something you're thinking ahead. That's what I'm going to do after today's show, and I'm part of my debate with Henry Davis.
Okay.
But anyway, going back to that key division of the electorate, the white suburban women,
yes,
who have, it looks as though in the last few elections have been moving toward the Democrats, and
are moving against Trump.
They're moving against Trump. And you think that's a pattern that will follow, that will hold?
Yes. What has he done for women lately?
Well, what has he done for women ever? But that's a whole nothing.
I'm talking about for any progress to go on. No, in fact, it's going to be a bloodbath next year. The Republicans are talking about last year where there was the blue wave.
Yeah. Here we go.
Next year it's going to be a
tsunami?
A red tsunami. A red tsunami.
A red tsunami the other way.
But as in blood flowing, not a positive thing.
So they're
going to get massacred.
What do you think is at the heart of this? Just opposition to the behavior of Donald Trump,
yes,
as opposed to the policies of Donald Trump?
Both. I mean, Trump has been horrible in every way. He's the most lawless president ever.
Let me think about that. I have to think about that. I lived with Richard Milhouse Nixon.
Yeah, well, he makes Nixon look like a pickpocket versus a mugger.
Wait, give me what's the bill of particulars on the lawlessness of Donald John Trump?
Why don't we start with ignoring subpoenas, telling your entire administration they can't go honor a subpoena. Nixon did not do that. He squirmed and he tried to figure out how to get around it, but he didn't have a blanket. Screw you! I'm not. My people just aren't coming.
Yeah, that's true. The Nixon's aides testified at the public Watergate hearings in the summer of 1973.
Right.
Yeah, so he did not.
And when they said you got to go, he left.
He did. It took a lot. He did,
Yeah.
and
I mean, he did everything. He was tricky Dicky. Right?
yeah, he
He
resisted.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he resisted. He didn't want to.
But he honored the Constitution. In fact, he had actually read it. So he honored it. And when it was like, okay, well, writing's on the wall, he got drunk. He started talking to the paintings on the wall in the White House. Had a long good talking to himself. And then he got out of there.
He got out of there. And now, yeah, so he may have been more insane than Donald Trump in some ways, talking to Yeah, you're right. As soon as I said that, yeah, maybe I'm wrong in that one.
Well, they're different forms of insanity.
Yeah, there's
so
different.
he had a different insanity.
He was
perhaps.
a drunken insomniac.
Yeah.
He was a drunken. Richard Nixon was a drunken insomniac, and I went through that Nixon phase. I know I told you so many times. We're reading Nixon books, and it's frightening when you go back and read about his behavior. Those late
no,
night.
they had orders. I think Haig had the order that to keep him away from the nuclear trigger.
Yeah.
Don't let him get near that nuclear trigger under any
Especially late at night.
Right,
You know?
exactly. Right.
Don't believe a thing he says.
Right.
All right, Donald Trump. Let's break down some of the news that's happened since you were here. Gordon Sondland, one of your favorite Trump appointees, the U.S. ambassador to the European Union, flip-flopped. This is pretty big news. He flip-flopped in his testimony.
Yeah, because everybody else who testified, so far there have been 6 who testified, saying that it was a quid pro.
The dealings. We're talking about the Ukraine.
The Ukraine.
Yeah, shaking down the president.
The hearings they've been having behind closed doors in the basement, in the skiff. Anyway, the hearings, he had 6 employees of the National Security Council who talked about how Trump was dealing. It was like a drug deal or something. Okay.
Sondland was the one who first said that it was not a quid pro quo. He was not aware of a quid pro quo.
Okay, but a little background on him.
Go ahead.
Okay. He is a successful, self-made millionaire off of hotels. He gave Trump inaugural $1 million so that he could be an ambassador. But this happened. This is America.
Wait, I thought that he was cleaning up the swamp. Isn't that part and parcel of what makes the swamp? That you don't hire somebody based on a meritocracy, on their ability to do a job, on their knowledge and understanding of a situation. You hire someone who gave you $1 million. I thought he's cleaning up the swamp, Monroe.
Okay, I'm going to let you in on this little secret because we're good friends.
All right.
So I want you to know this. Trump lied.
Okay. You mean he was lying when he said he was going to clean up the swamp? Oh, my God. Don't tell Frank Coconati. Well, he lied to me.
Yeah, well, he's up to 14,000.
Lies?
Yes.
So,
since he's in the last 2.5, almost 3 years.
No, but it is amazing. One of his strengths is his ability to continue lying and continue speaking from his script, regardless of what happened. And I believe when he was in Kentucky the day before the election, the election that the Republican lost, I want to add, he talked about cleaning up the swamp. And I can't believe he's still using that rhetoric, given the fact that he is swampier. He's made the swamp swampier since he got in. But anyway,
well, because his people, I mean, he also has shot someone on Fifth Avenue. You have the bullets casings laying there. You have the body. You have bullets in the body. You have eyewitnesses, and the Trump nuts are still going, oh.
I don't see it.
Exactly. I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't see. Or which is what they do. They redefine what the crime is.
Right.
In other words, murder is not a crime all of a sudden. Well,
yeah, right, exactly. No. Well, Trump was just shooting his gun, and they jumped in front of the bullets.
Yeah. And by the way, did you know that there was marijuana in their bloodstream?
Right, exactly, right.
All right, so go back to Gordon Sondland. He was a successful hotel man in the hotel business.
And anyway, the country he's supposed to be an ambassador to is not Ukraine.
The European Union you're talking about, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's not Ukraine.
Right.
So he's doing business for Trump with Rudy Giuliani, and they have a little side deal going on. They have a shadow diplomacy thing going on where they're shaking down the president of the Ukraine, the crooked president of the Ukraine. He gets replaced by Zelensky, who is a comedian.
Yeah, that's pretty. I know that's an interesting little spin.
I mean, this whole thing is just. I mean, if you and I, 5 years ago, had written a movie script like this, nobody would accept it because they say this is too nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, he said this strains credibility completely. So, but anyway, he's a comedian, and he's there to clean up the swamp in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And he's approached by Giuliani. They say, well, if you want to clean up the swamp, you really need to check out Biden's and get some dirt on it. Or give us that dirt that you cleaned it up. We don't care whether it's true or not.
Just give us some dirt.
And go on TV and say it. You have to go on TV and announce it so we can use that against Trump. Against Biden. And
they're so worried about Biden. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right. No, because Biden is beating Trump by double digits.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
And so they should be worried.
They're worried about Biden, who probably will not get the Democratic nomination, Monroe.
Right, exactly.
I beg people coming on this show. This show, as I say, is basically Democrats, all right?
Yeah.
We've had one or two Republicans on.
Which seat? I don't want to catch. I don't want to catch the cooties, Republican cooties.
We had one Democrat who voted for Trump, so that's as close as we've had to an out-and-out Republican.
Yeah, a traitor.
Alderman Nick Spazzato. I like Nick. Anyway, he was on the show. But anyway, so I'm always looking for Democrats who are for Biden. And it's hard to find them in Chicago. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I think Pete Cunningham comes to see. I don't know if you know Pete, but he's like the Rom guy that comes on the show. He'll be on tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I think he said he liked Biden.
Yeah.
So that's as close as we've come. But anyway, but nonetheless, Trump is so obsessed with Biden.
Right.
Which is why he was, trying to shake down these Ukraine.
Yeah. But the reality is Trump, whoever it is going to beat Trump out of that lot. Anybody.
You're absolutely convinced that it does not matter ideologically who the Democrats put up or not?
No. He's damaged goods, and by the time the public hearings are completed, by the end of the month, he's gonna be in the land of no return. In fact, this is my theory still, is that you're going to have these hearings. Public opinion is going to go higher. It's now at 50%. It's going to go higher at 60 or more to impeach him. The Republicans, Mitch McConnell is going to look at those Republican senators who are on the bubble as it is right now. He wants to remain the Senate Majority Leader. So he will throw Trump under the bus.
That's the Meredith Shiner theory. She's a former journalist, comes on this show from time to time, a very astute political observer. She made that prediction, I want to say almost a month ago on this show, that Mitch McConnell will turn on Trump.
Yes.
And when I saw those results in Kentucky, that was the first time I began to think that maybe Meredith was absolutely correct.
Okay, but now
Yes.
the plot thickens.
Go ahead.
This is the complication. Pence was in on the extortion bribery of situation in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. Where they were
knew
shaking
about
down
it.
the
They're shaking down the
Mhm.
president.
The shakedown.
Yeah. So, what do the Republicans do? You got a felonious president. You got a felonious vice president. If you get rid of them both, you impeach both of them, then you have President Pulitzer.
Yeah, that's it. You have predicted that one in the past.
Right.
First of all, time out. I do not believe. I still don't believe that Mitch McConnell will turn against Donald Trump. I do not believe.
I think he will, but I think he will.
So in other words, you think that he's going to figure, I want to hold on to the Senate. I'm willing to risk losing the White House. I need the Senate.
Yes.
And I'm going to get, I think you need, how many do you need? Like 7 Republicans. You need 7 Republican senators, I want to say. And that presumes that all Democrats.
Well, no. You need 20.
20 of them?
Yeah, it's 2/3 to convict.
Oh my God, you're right.
To convict.
That is correct. So you need 20 Republicans. No
Yes.
way, Monroe.
Yes.
No way. No way. I was doing the math off of 60, not 67.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
No way. Absolutely not. Meredith, sorry, I love you dearly, but no way.
Yeah. I think it's possible. It's a Hail Mary.
Because
it's a Travinsky throwing up the ball with 2 seconds left from 40 yards away. But
let's hope the Democrats are a little more effective than Mitch Trubisky. Great draft choice, Bears. But you could have had Deshaun Watson, but nope, wouldn't want a good quarterback. But no, I don't see it happening in any way. And but I do believe that, and this is what I think you were getting at, that folks who do not feel as though their entire political career is linked to Donald Trump will be turned off by this testimony. So just what Sondland did, to go back to what Gordon Sondland did,
right.
who is the
the reason he did that because he's a Trump guy,
mm-hmm.
except he perjured himself, and he is a businessman, and he would rather not be in prison, and so he had an awakening.
He had an awakening.
He said, holy God, holy Lord, I could end up in prison.
Like Michael
for Donald
Cohen.
Trump, right, exactly, for Donald Trump.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Right, and then he reverted to I'm better than that.
Yeah, he completely reversed his testimony. First he said no quid pro quo, and now, let me see if I have the exact quote. This is Sondland's new statement. I said that resumption of the U.S. aid would likely not occur until Ukraine provided the public anti-corruption statement that we had been discussing for many weeks. Wow. That sounds like extortion to me.
Oh, yes.
You don't get the aid. First of all, Trump, the aid was approved by Congress, so it's
Right.
not up to Donald Trump to withhold the aid. And secondly, it should have absolutely nothing to do with this phony statement of an intention to investigate Joe Biden. So, yeah, he completely flip-flopped. I don't know how that's going to keep him out of jail, by the way.
Oh, no, because Congress, unlike with contempt of court,
Mm-hmm.
Congress has the option of not doing anything, following it up.
No, but what I'm saying, if what he said under oath, if the issue is perjury,
Yeah.
so if he said under oath, let's say that Adolfo Mondragon is the worst movie critic in the world, and then he flip-flopped a week later and said Adolfo Mondragon is the most brilliant movie critic I've ever seen.
Yeah, he could say, I was mistaken.
I see. Okay.
No.
Get a good lawyer in there.
Exactly.
Lawyer
No,
up.
but no, seriously, no. Congress will decide whether to
I'm not sure that's the case.
Yeah.
It's not the federal attorneys.
No.
Okay, it's
no,
Congress.
It's Congress.
All right, well,
for contempt
okay,
of Congress.
I got you.
They
For
get to do
contempt of
that. So unlike with contempt of court, where that's it, buddy.
Yeah.
You're going to jail. This is why he flip flopped so quickly. Like,
yeah.
well.
He's not going to be Michael Cohen.
Here's your get out of jail free card. Are you interested?
Yeah.
Tell the truth. And he still has some truth telling to do. I mean, he just told the truth about the actual quid pro quo, but there are a few other little things that his memory didn't serve him correctly.
All right, that's Monroe Anderson. Adolfo Mondragon has entered the room. We're going to take a break. We're going to bring Adolfo on to continue the discussion, talk about Trump's tax case, possibly heading to the Supremes. Which way will the Supremes go in that one? I know 4 of them will line up for whatever Donnie says. And what's the best direction for the Democrats to take coming out of yesterday's election? And, well, got a lot of local stuff from Adolfo as well.
Yeah, and one other thing we should talk about is when the trial, because the House is going to impeach Trump.
That is correct.
When the trial hits the Senate, the presiding judge will be one Justice Roberts.
Yeah, that's correct. And I think,
and judges can influence how things go greatly.
And we'll get into Justice Roberts, who will probably be the deciding vote on that income tax case. So we'll be right back with Adolfo and Monroe. Hey, everybody, what you're about to hear are the piano stylings of Jeff Manuel. Man, listen to Jeff go. Jeff Manuel has been playing piano around Chicago for years. He's played for conventions, for celebrities, played in basement bars with blues bands. He's played at prestigious social clubs, fine restaurants, and in the intimacy of private homes. Book Jeff Manuel at jeffemanuelpianist.com. Don't worry, I'll spell his name at the end of this commercial. You know what Chicago Magazine said? They said that Jeff Manuel is, quote, as comfortable with Chopin as he is with Cole Porter. He's excellent and his performance is joyous. He offers an elegant stream of compositions and interpretations that entertains the mind but won't hurt the ears. To hear more of Jeff Manuel's work and to book Jeff for your next event, go to jeffemanuelpianist.com. I'm going to spell it out for you, people. J-E-F-F. M as in Mary, A, N as in Nancy, UELPIANIST.com. Take it away, Jeff Manuel. Did you know that 40% of the people in Illinois opt to be cremated? Well, it's true. And Chicagoland Cremation Options honors their wishes by providing cremation services directly to the general public. Chicagoland Cremation Options provides an affordable, ethical, and easy cremation arrangement, whether in person or online. Save thousands and streamline the process by going directly to Chicagoland Cremation Options. It's a family-owned business operated by my good friend, Douglas Klein. Here's how you reach them. ChicagolandCremationOptions.com. One more time. ChicagolandCremationOptions.com.
The Ben Joravsky Show is supported by Northwestern University's part-time master's program in literature and liberal studies. Students learn from dynamic and diverse faculty as they build advanced skills for critical analysis, writing, and research. Evening classes are held on Northwestern's Evanston and Chicago campuses. The spring quarter application deadline is January 15th. Learn more at sps.northwestern.edu/masters. All right, everybody. Hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show for Wednesday, November 6th is just moments away. But before we get into that, we got to thank the following unions again for jumping on board and sponsoring this program. First up, it's the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 and District 8. And no, not Aerosmith. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. And, of course, today's Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Hour number 2, let's go. It is Wednesday, November 6th, and live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. In this hour of the program, we still got Monroe Anderson in studio. Election lawyer Adolfo Mondragon is here with a nice-looking beard. And we welcome President of the Cook County Teachers Union, Tony Johnston. And now your host, not wearing a beard.
No, I'm not a beard guy.
You should sometime.
Negatory.
Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
We're going to have Adolfo taking a deep dive on the complaint he put together against Danny Solis, and probably could be put against Ed Burke as well. Should Cook County, or should politicians in the state of Illinois be allowed to use the money that people donate to them for their political campaigns to pay off their criminal defense lawyers? Adolfo's got put together the complaint. Alderman Byron Sixto Lopez filed the complaint. He'll be a guest on the show on Friday, so Adolfo will be arguing that case, and he will also, we're going to force Adolfo to defend Martin Scorsese. We're going to get into that. Monroe's got strong feelings on that as well. We'll do more Trump talk. Before we do that, D, you got an update for me?
Absolutely, I do. First off, last night was an awesome First Tuesday show. Maya had her debut as
correct.
Co-host. For people who want to check it out, well, you can. You got two options. You could check it out on the Facebook page, the video and all. The live stream is posted at Benny J Show. Head to the Facebook page and check it out. And also, tonight, I'm going to try my best to get the audio up and make it downloadable for everybody as well. So you can be able to download it at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites. All right, let's talk some local news here. CPD Superintendent Eddie Johnston looks like he may be retiring this week.
Has he announced that officially?
Hasn't announced it officially. People are going back and forth here. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and the one and only Fran the Woman Spielman. Mayor Lori Lightfoot vowed Wednesday to honor the legally mandated process for choosing Chicago's next police superintendent, but insisted that she hasn't had, quote, that conversation yet with soon-to-be retiring Superintendent Eddie Johnston. Some people say he's going to retire this week. We'll have to wait and see. With Inspector General Joe Ferguson investigating Johnston and controversy swirling around the superintendent, Johnston's decision to jump before being pushed comes as no surprise.
Cops are saying it's Friday. My brother told me today. He's like, I'm hearing through the grapevine that it's going to be Friday.
Adolfo's brother is a Chicago police officer. Right. Adolfo, is correct. Thank you.
Robert Mueller. I love that.
Mueller always in. Monroe, did you have thoughts on that? You seem to be itching to say something about Eddie Johnston.
The day that Mayor Lightfoot was sworn in, I was on WGN. I was one of the anchors for their special they did on it. And I predicted that he'd be gone sooner than this. I'm surprised he's lasted as long as he has.
Why do you feel that way?
Because you need your own people in those key positions when you're mayor.
Oh, so you don't think it has anything to do with anything he's done? You think
Well,
it's just a matter?
well, now it does, but I mean, she should have gotten rid of him back then to have her own people, because once you get in that position of power, people are out to get you. You have to watch your back. You need somebody to watch your back, and you definitely with the Chicago Police Department.
All right, let me see what Adolfo's thoughts on this before we go back to Trump. In your humble opinion, as a resident of the city of Chicago, as a lifelong resident of the city of Chicago, proud graduate of Curie High School and the University of Chicago, do you think Eddie Johnston has done a good job as police chief?
No, I think he's done below fair job. I think he's a nice guy. I think that he's affable, but that's not what the job requires, right? And I think that he should have never been hired in the first place, and he should have been fired at some point. And Monroe's right. Lori should have asked him from the beginning. I think that the only reason why he's retiring is because that camera footage that we're going to see eventually, unless he retires, is probably really bad.
You're what Adolfo's alluding to is the camera footage
from the
from when he was discovered asleep behind the wheel,
right, and then
outside his house or his home,
right, and then he confessed to the mayor that he had been drinking, but of course he left that out with everyone else but the mayor, and then the mayor told Fran Spielman that same day that he told me that he had been drinking, and that's why it came out.
Well, why do you think he's done a poor job? Putting aside the drinking thing.
When they ask the top cop in any city in America whether or not he or she believes that police brutality exists, that police corruption exists, and has he or she ever seen or witnessed it firsthand, and the answer is no, I don't think it exists. There's only a few rotten apples, and I've personally in my 30 years have never seen it. That's BS. That's bullshit.
Especially in Chicago.
Especially in Chicago. That's right. You can say I've seen it. I don't condone it.
Yeah.
It's horrible, whatever. But to say, oh no, I've never. Come on. Even the most neophyte of cops has seen something.
Well, as recall, when he got the gig, Rahm Emanuel appointed him. There was a process, a procedure set up in the city of Chicago where he was supposed to take like 3 recommendations that the police board gave to him.
Right.
Remember that?
And then he
Eddie
bypassed that.
He bypassed, just came up with Eddie Johnston, and Rahm was very proud of that because he was so different.
Take a chill pill, man.
Oh yeah, you're right. Thank you, Rahm.
No, but I think why my personal opinion is I think that he picked Eddie because of his affability. I think that he found in him a bro. This is my bro right here. I'm gonna help him with his health issues. I'm gonna help him, on a personal basis, and he'll never betray me, and he'll never whatever because we're gonna be like brothers.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure he had a similar attitude, Rahm did, toward Gary McCarthy, and when things got rough, the first guy Rahm threw under the bus was Gary McCarthy.
Yeah, but I think Gary and Eddie are different people.
Yes, they are.
Gary is a very Machiavellian guy, and I don't think Eddie's that kind. I mean, he probably has a lot of street smarts, but he doesn't function in the same way politically that McCarthy does.
Yeah. Well, and all right, we're gone too far afield on Eddie Johnson. I want to go back to Trump, but the part that really kind of exposed Eddie Johnson, Monroe, was when the story came out. I think it was in the Sun-Times, came out with the story that allegedly Eddie Johnson was part of the group of police officers or police brass that saw the videotape of Laquan McDonald getting shot and said nothing.
Right.
And this gets to the point that Adolfo was making, that he's a go-along guy.
Right.
And Lori Lightfoot was supposed to be a break from go-along guys.
Yeah, Joyce and I had this discussion this morning, and her position was that, he's seen any police chief like that has seen a lot of stuff, and so it's not surprising that he wouldn't react. And my response to that was he was supposed to be pissed off.
Yeah, no.
Right.
I know. Exactly. Yeah. You're supposed to be upset because a citizen was just shot.
Right, 16 times.
All right, now let's go back to Trump.
Okay, because
yes,
it's Trump's 1,022 day in office.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a
long time, yeah. It seems like every day was its own special pain in the neck. I was fascinated by this story that broke yesterday, or has been in the news lately. Donald Trump, a judge in New York, or I think it was appellate court in New York, ruled that Donald John Trump, his accounting firm, the firm that does his taxes, will have to turn over Donald Trump's tax returns for 8 years, Monroe. He's been holding on those for 8 years.
Can you believe that? What audit goes on for 8 years?
Come on. The whole audit thing. Remember, that was his first excuse. By the way, swamp drainers. How'd you buy that excuse? You know what I mean? He's draining the swamp, except for the part of the swamp that where his personal connection to the swamp is revealed. All right, Monroe. So Donald Trump has said from the get-go that the president of the United States, should be above prosecution, should not be forced to turn over his tax returns. This actual subpoena is not directed at Donald Trump. It's directed at the accounting firm that does his taxes. So they're the group that has to turn over the taxes. So how do you see this one playing out?
Oh, we will hear about the taxes. We may or may not see them. That's still to be determined. But his taxes will come out, the results of them. And my prediction is what we'll discover is that he's been laundering rubles since the 1990s.
Wow.
That he's not nearly as rich as he claims he is, and that he's a tax cheat.
Well, the last two, I think we've already.
Yes.
The New York Times is already.
What? That he's a tax.
That
cheat.
he's a tax cheat, and that
He's not as rich as he says
right,
he is.
right. With that famous deposition where they just grilled the shit out of him, and were like, "So you mean you just made that number out of? Yeah, yes. If I feel like I'm worth $5 billion today, I'm worth $5 billion.
Yeah.
You know?
But what about the other part? Monroe's been saying this, by the way, for a long time.
Right. That I wouldn't be surprised, but that would be a true revelation. Like if that came out.
I don't know how that, and I do not know how that would be revealed by tax statement. Monroe, Adolfo, you're a lawyer. You can maybe help with. How would, if he's getting money from Russia, how would that be? Would that be on his tax statement?
I guess only if he was doing it through, like some brokerage that was, like if he had some guy at Goldman that dealt with currencies or something like that, and somehow that's disclosed.
Okay,
and,
the reason I use the word rubles is simply to indicate Russia. I mean, it could be laundered some other kind of way, but the thing is, the Russians, once his gambling casinos got in trouble, and he could not get money from any bank because he didn't pay his debts, then Deutsche Bank, which is controlled by Russian oligarchs, took him under wing, and so he was doing property deals. To
and that has come
money.
out, the property deals where he flipped some homes in Florida to Russian oligarchs, and they were sweetheart deals where like tons of money were made on them.
Yeah, he had one house that he bought. I read this a year ago, so I may not be completely right, but let's say he bought it for $25 million, vacant mansion. He sat on it for a year and a half, and then he sold it to some Russian oligarch for $50 million. Yeah. It had never been occupied. Nothing had changed, and suddenly it was worth twice as much.
All right, Adolfo, your thoughts on how the Supremes will rule. Again, the issue, the bedrock issue in this case is can the courts order a sitting president to turn over documents? And the Trump's argument is that no, the president of the United States is too busy to be tied down by these legal affairs, and that you cannot demand from him any kind of documents. That's basically their argument. That argument was thrown out by the local court. I think the appellate court has also ruled in favor. It's going to the Supremes. Do you think the Supremes will side with Trump or the New York prosecutors in this matter?
I think on this issue, they'll side with the prosecutors.
Why do you say that?
I think while there's some, the conservatives my perception of the conservatives on the Supreme Court are that some of them are willing to, because of their own thoughts on the principles of the powers of the presidency, et cetera, that they're willing to go on the side of Trump on certain issues. But I think that this one is far enough removed in terms of the taxes and how they're going about it, how they're not asking them directly from him. They're asking them from the firm, which presumably has a lot of people who already have eyes on this and everything like that. And I think that they'll fall in line and give deference probably to the lower courts on this issue. Now, I haven't read the arguments. I'm just giving you my perception, how I feel in terms of the politics of the Supreme Court. I haven't read the actual arguments that are being made, but I think that this is the kind of issue where if they're going to rule against Trump, it's probably more likely because it's if you're going to expand the powers of the presidency, you're going to expand powers that are very closely related to what he does on the job. Okay? And the farther apart that you expand the powers of the presidency to things that are not as directly related to things that he does on the job, but things that are ancillary, I think that that's where you fall into further and further trouble, and that the case for the power of the presidency extending that far out becomes weaker and weaker and weaker. And here, in terms of just turning over documents that are related to his income from things that he did before the presidency, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I think are not, directly related with the power of the presidency. So if we were talking about the war power or his power to, I don't know, do what Lincoln did during wartime, et cetera, et cetera. That's something where maybe the Supreme Court would be open to saying, okay, yeah, the presidency, the power of the presidency is extensive in that area. But I think that when the subject matter is farther and farther removed from what the actual job demands, that I think that they're less likely to rule in favor of the president.
Do you agree, Monroe?
Yeah.
You think so? You agree? You think? Yeah. I look at it. I'm just while you were talking, I was thinking about the judges on this court, and this gets in an old argument I've been having with Adolfo for years and years. A pleasant argument, and I do not believe the way things are going with our Supreme Court that principle is ever at stake. It's always a political decision.
No, principle will be at stake periodically, because Roberts, for example, does not want to have a politicized court where he goes down in history. His legacy is he had the most politicized court in American history.
Right.
I mean, he's serious about that, and so he's only going to let it go so far.
That's right. I think so too. I think that Chief Roberts is a blessing in disguise because he is truly a historian of American judicial history. He's a fundamentalist more than the others in terms of that he truly believes in legal principles, as opposed to someone like at the end, Scalia, who may have started out as someone who people said, oh, he's a principles guy. I think that as he went on his term in the Supreme Court, some of his decisions you could tell were reached, in the opposite direction, where he had an outcome in mind and then he worked his way back, which is the hypocrisy, because these guys are always saying that that's what judicial activism is all about, and yet they engage in it. But I think that Roberts is truly a judge who despises that and actually doesn't work in that manner.
So then you're saying it'll be 5-4.
Yeah.
In other words, there's 4 judges. There's 2, Kavanaugh and Gorsuch, owe their appointment to Donnie, and I gotta believe they're going down.
You can't.
Yeah,
you can't
but remember, they're already on there. That's it. They don't owe them anything anymore.
Yeah, right. They're there for life.
They're there for life.
So you think it's be 9-0?
No.
No, because
but one of those guys could go on the other
man,
side.
Yeah, Uncle Thomas.
Uncle Thomas,
who was such a contrarian.
Yeah.
So he would do it just to thumb his nose at everybody.
Well, okay. By the way, that was Monroe Anderson who called him Uncle Thomas, just for the record. Okay, that was Monroe Anderson. So send your emails to him.
The views and words of Monroe Anderson reflect those of Monroe Anderson and the Ben Joravsky Show.
See, I believe when I look at the state of politics and the court, and I think back to the Kavanaugh hearings and the way Kavanaugh counterattacked, which is very similar to the way that Clarence Thomas counterattacked. It's very similar to the way Sean Spicer is behaving right now on Dancing with the Stars. Whenever Republicans throw principle out the window, they're the most pragmatic group of political animals in the country. We just quoted Lori Lightfoot talk about Democrats cleaning up.
You mean Sean's not a great dancer?
Sean Spicer, we're in a tangent, began the show, all right? He began the show, Dancing with the Stars, when he first went on. He goes, guys, I think this is an opportunity just to have some fun and put politics out the window, and just Democrats are going to get along with Republicans, and we look for things, entertainment forms that we all agree on. Then it turns out the guy is a god-awful dancer, okay? Terrible dancer. The judges are like, get this guy off. What's the first thing he does? He flips the switch. He says, this is a chance for Donald Trump's America to make a statement to liberal Hollywood to, defend our beliefs and positions. Here's how you vote for me, folks.
Wow.
He's just, man, he's Republican,
and Trump was firing him up.
Trump's tweeting out. I'm like, damn, you Republicans don't believe in anything. There's nothing resembling a principle. With the Republican Party, it's all about winning.
And I think that that's the main hypocrisy of Republicans, at least through my lifetime. My first perception of them in the 80s as a child, was that I bought what they sold, that they were, these upstanding guys, Boy Scouts, who followed the law. They were clean G-men, like Herbert Hoover, et cetera, et cetera. But and then the Democrats were the
Hoover?
I mean, not Herbert Hoover. Edgar J. Hoover. Edgar J.
Same difference.
Yeah, well, pretty much.
But he was young and very idealistic.
Right. Well, no. So this is what they sell you, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, I remember reading P.J. O'Rourke's Parliament of Horrors when I was like in 8th or 9th grade.
That was an influential book. P.J. O'Rourke, a satirist, right-wing satirist.
Right, and he was like a hippie, right, who then turned conservative in the 80s. And I don't know where he's at now. But, basically he said, look, Republicans are clean-hearted Americans and, Democrats are these hippies who engage in all sorts of vile vices and blah, blah, blah. I think that the only difference is that at least Democrats are honest about their weaknesses and the Republicans are not. That's the hypocrisy that they sell you this, the true model of that idealistic Republican is someone like a Robert Mueller. Think about it. He is an upstanding American. He is a guy who tries to do things for, with the best interests of America. He's conservative, but he's, a guy who models himself personally and professionally as someone who is ethical, efficacious, polite, civil, etc. Right? But
except though, I'm wondering. I don't know, but I'm wondering if he didn't put his thumb on the scale with his report.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, right. Right.
Well, there you go, Adolfo. You can just dig in and read any.
I think actually it was the opposite. I think that he scaled back and he didn't do it because if he went out and said, well, Donald Trump committed obstruction, then it would lead to all these Republicans saying, see, we knew it was a sham from the beginning. And this was his only way of playing chess and saying, okay, how can I find a way out without everyone saying it was a sham, but at the same time telling people, look, he did obstruct.
All right, but Mueller, let's put him to the side because he is not, he doesn't act like a Republican operative. And Clarence Thomas, that Monroe alluded to, he just like Sean Spicer. He's just like Brett Kavanaugh.
Well, think
as
about
soon
it.
As
all
he
these
was on fire, he did a political counterpunch. And I believe, when you get back to the Supreme Court's behavior, I believe that he's still mad about what went down in 1991. He still feels he was a victim, even though I don't believe he was.
I think if you could point to one guy that all of these people, you could line them all back ideologically to, or at least the way their playbook is the guy who died, George Bush Sr.'s political guy. What's his name?
Lee
Atwater, right?
Yeah, Lee Atwater.
Lee Atwater. I think that this all goes back. If you trace it all back, I think it goes back to Lee Atwater. All of these people probably at some point met him or read his work or read his playbook or whatever. But this goes back to Lee Atwater, and I think these are all people who are proponents of the Lee Atwater way.
Oh, and it also goes back to Bork. When he was up for to go on the Supreme Court, and the Democrats did a hatchet job.
Well, wait, see, okay, here's now, at the risk of being you're called a hypocrite on this particular position. I'm old enough to remember the Bork hearings.
Yeah.
And Democrats had a principled reason for being against Bork on ideological reasons.
Absolutely.
Okay? Just like, for instance, Republicans could argue they had a principled interest to be against William Douglas, who was a lefty Supreme Court justice way before your time, Adolfo, back in the 60s.
You saw my blank stare, right?
Yeah, but he was one of the great champions of liberal judicial decisions, William Douglas. And Republicans hated him because he was such a liberal and such a lefty. And so they concoct an ideological reason to be against him. And I can almost respect that, if you get what I'm saying, as opposed to pure partisanship, where you're just against somebody because...
Oh, no, it's gotten much uglier now. But I'm saying that was the beginning of the ugliness, I think.
Well, it was pretty ugly. Some of the stuff I recall, that one was a knockdown, drag-out fight. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
And so what you're saying is that the Republican takeaway is from that, we're going to play as hard as the Democrats did with Bork. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying I believe, when we get back to our basic question when it comes to Trump's taxes, I believe that Kavanaugh will vote with Trump. I believe that Gorsuch will vote with Trump. I believe that Monroe's favorite justice, Clarence Thomas, will vote with Trump. And I believe Alito will vote with Trump. It'll be 4. And I think Roberts, you're right.
I think Roberts is going to be the guy who's...
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to be that close.
So you think?
I don't think we'll see, but I don't think it's going to be that close.
All right. Our next guest, Tony Johnston's in the studio, but before we take a break, Adolfo, just you filed, or you didn't literally file it. It was Alderman Sitcho was one.
Well, so I represent. I'm the attorney of record for Byron, and it's pretty much I devised this thing, and then I talked to Byron about it. I came here in August after those great Sun-Times articles came out describing or letting us know that Danny Solis and Burke and Madigan have used obscene amounts of campaign money to pay for legal defense, whether it's civil or criminal. And I came on here and I told you that I thought that just from the letter, not only the spirit, but the letter of the law is illegal. And even if this practice exists because we condone it and no one complains because they're afraid of retribution or for whatever reason, because they're part of the people who are part of the hypocrisy, that someone should stand up and set a precedent because that's the only way it's ever going to stop. And right now is a particularly important time, not only because of these obscene amounts of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, but with all of the indictments that are coming down and all the investigations, that there's going to be many other people who are going to start doing this. In fact, I just saw there was an article from last week that Kerry Austin just moved $40,000 to pay for legal fees. I doubt those were for campaigning because she's not campaigning for anything. And why would she need $40,000 to pay an attorney to put her on the ballot or something like that? That's way too much money. So I get it why the board allows this to happen. They don't want to do fishing expeditions. If their quarterly statements say, I use this money for dinner, then I'm assuming it was for a campaign dinner, not to take your girlfriend out for steaks, which probably happens all the time. Okay? And if it says legal funds, I'm assuming that it's for campaign-related matters. And so long as no one complains, I'm not going to dig underneath that and start asking, well, can you parse that out and tell me what it is? But now, and thank goodness to good journalism, I know sometimes I feel a little frustrated because it's not a journalist position to say this is illegal. It's just a good journalist position to say, pay attention to this, people. There's something really wrong with this. Hello, hello, hello. Well, their hellos met my ear. I came on here and I bitched about it. But I did go and I said on the air I was going to reach out to Byron. I did. I spoke to him. And thank goodness he's brave enough and he's a principled man, speaking of principles. And that although his staff played devil's advocate and said, well, you're going to get a lot of heat from here, because even though it's not a direct attack against all these other people who are doing it, of course it's an attack against them as well. It's not a direct attack. But this complaint basically will force the board,
the Illinois
State Board of Elections, to look through the incident that occurred with Danny Solis to rule whether or not the practice of using campaign funds to pay for anything, including legal fees that are not related to campaigning, whether that's a violation of the letter of the law. And it is. I told you that the act itself defines an expenditure as it has to be something that is related to the nomination for election, or retention of an official to public office.
All right. So the ball is going to be in the Illinois Board of Elections court, and we're going to get Monroe's opinion, see if he agrees with you or disagrees with you. All right, Monroe Anderson, you were press secretary to Eugene Sawyer many years ago. You've been on both sides of this issue as a journalist and as a flack. Here is the question for you. Should politicians be allowed to spend campaign contributions that people gave to them for political purposes to run campaigns?
No.
Should they be allowed to spend those money on their criminal defense lawyers?
No.
Okay.
And,
well, there you go.
And here's the thing: it's common sense. So one of the articles came out yesterday. Really great article. I think her name is Cherone, Cherone, journalist. She works for the Daily Line and some other publication.
Oh, Heather. Yeah.
Heather. Yes. Great article that she put out yesterday. Yeah. She understood it right away. And so she called the board and said, well, what do you say about this? And the initial statement was, because they probably didn't even realize that I filed this 2 weeks ago, okay, was there's nothing in the law that prohibits the use of campaign money to pay attorneys. That's technically true. But what he failed to say is that it has to be for campaign-related matters.
Yeah.
And I told Heather, I said, think about it. You can't get a haircut. You can't buy clothing. You can't get a membership at a club. You can't buy a car. You can't do all these other things that are personal with campaign finance money. But you're going to be allowed to use campaign money to use for any reason to pay an attorney for anything. So will you be able to pay an attorney to do your divorce with campaign money? Do a closing for your house? For the house that you couldn't buy with campaign money, will you be able to pay the attorney to do the closing? You know? Will you be able to get an attorney to defend you in a workman's comp issue? No.
Yeah.
So then why the fuck should they be able to use hundreds of thousands of dollars to defend themselves against things that are not related to the campaign? But the hypocrisy above that is that they're defending them against allegations that they were doing bad things while they were in office.
And they probably were.
Yeah, doing bad things. All right, Adolfo Mondragon. I know he didn't drop the F-bomb in that legal brief that he wrote on this thing, but he gets carried away sometimes.
Well, that was
on the
a new
Joravsky
legal
show.
term.
Oh, that's a new legal
right.
term.
It's a term of art. We attorneys call that a term of art. It's a term of art. Yeah.
All right, Tony Johnston's sitting on deck. We're going to bring him on, and I want to thank Adolfo Mondragon and Monroe Anderson.
So we're saving Scorsese for another day?
We're saving Scorsese for another day. We're going to put Tony Johnston on the hot seat on that one. Should The Irishman be Oscar eligible? Ben Joravsky says no, not unless it's at least 2 months in a theater. All right, I'm a hardball on there. All right, thank you very much. We'll be right back with Tony Johnston.
The Ben Joravsky Show is supported by Northwestern University's part-time master's program in literature and liberal studies. Students learn from dynamic and diverse faculty as they build advanced skills for critical analysis, writing, and research. Evening classes are held on Northwestern's Evanston and Chicago campuses. The spring quarter application deadline is January 15th. Learn more at sps.northwestern.edu/masters.
There was debate. The vote was not unanimous.
So let me tell you, teachers are some of your most well-read individuals, period. They do not mind speaking their mind. If you can get 25,000 teachers out on the streets, we didn't get them there because they follow blindly. We don't get them there because they just trust people. These are individuals who ask questions, who interrogate information, who have an analysis, and figure out how to make a vote. We do not expect consensus in our house. I need to say that again. We do not expect consensus in our house. What happened here tonight was absolutely expected. It is raucous in this house. We cultivate that in our house. It is important that we get in a space where people are comfortable enough to disagree, to agree, to figure it out, to make amendments, and then to take a vote. That's what we do. And that's not a new thing here. It could be about a resolution to shut down network offices, and it's going to get the same amount of debate as this gets. That is just the nature of what we do here.
Commercial break over. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Tony Johnston from the Cook County Teachers Union is in the studio. We're going to talk about the teacher strike the mid-manager strike at Triton College. Before we do that, do you got an update for me?
Absolutely, I do here. I guess it's an update here. Ben Joravsky Show update, if you will. First off, our good friend on the YouTube live stream chat, Steven, was wondering something. First off, Steven was at the First Tuesday show. He didn't say hi.
Come on, Steven.
He walked right by me. He told everybody that he was like, oh, guess what? Dr. D was talking about sports. Mr. Not Talk About Sports.
Oh, I did not know that. Thank you, Steven, for that intel.
Yeah, say hi next time, Steven. But he said here He was wondering if Byron Sigcho Lopez would be on the show anytime soon. I know he's on this week, so
Yes.
let's use this time to announce future guests on the Ben Joravsky Show. Ben, who do we got lined
Well, I
up
got
in
my
the week
little
to
black
come?
book. Everybody knows I got this little black book. So let's see, Henry Davis, as we announced, will be a bonus guest today. Tomorrow, PC, Peter Cunningham. You know, I got some friends of sort of the ROM persuasion, and PC is one of them. He'll be on the show. Miles Conflassen will be here, as he is every Thursday from In These Times.
We got to give him a segment name, kind of like Romana Rundown. We need to come up with a Miles Camp Lassen. I'll be think
about
that's
that.
my homework for
yeah,
tonight.
that's your homework for tonight. Big Tommy Schubel will be here talking all things reefer. You know, he's our reefer expert. It'll be legal starting January 1st. This man knows more about marijuana than anyone in the world. So Tommy Schubel will be here. And Friday, Alderman Sigcho Lopez will be here with his wife, Lorene, talking politics. That's on Friday. Rob Martwick. Senator Rob Martwick will be on the show coming up. And Amisha Patel. Did I say Amisha's going to be here? Amisha Patel.
Our favorite grassroots organizer, Amisha Patel?
The one and only. So I'm sure she'll be talking about the teacher strike and what lefties can look forward to in the coming years, months, et cetera, and so forth. So a lot of political talk.
And Steven, boy, he's holding our feet to the fire on this one. Where the hell's Dick Simpson?
Oh, yeah, I got to get Dick Simpson. I reached out to him by email and not had any luck getting a response. I'm going to try to figure out how to get his phone number. The folks at UIC are very protective about giving out that phone. Ben, just send him an email. Come on, man, give me the number.
Oh, hey, how about
Monica
this?
knows I like to call people on the phone. That's my thing.
How about this for a segment for Miles Camp Lassen here, because he talks about those chicken sandwiches all the time, clucking around with Miles.
You know, did you come up with that?
That was Steven on the
Steven,
YouTube
that's
live
good.
stream chat.
Yeah, we'll have a Popeyes chicken update with Miles. He loves Popeyes.
So that's our list of guests soon to come on the Ben Joravsky Show. If you have any suggestions, feel free to weigh in at Benny J Show. Also, we don't give this out enough. Benny J Show, BENNY J Show at gmail.com.
Have we ever given that out?
Yeah, a few times.
Okay. All right, very good. Good job. Tony Johnston is my guest. Welcome to the show, Tony.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here.
And, all right, Cook County Teachers Union. Everybody in Chicago knows about the Chicago Teachers Union. Stacey Davis Gates has been on the show many times. Tell folks what the Cook County Teachers Union is.
Okay, it's actually, there's another C, and it's Cook County College Teachers Union.
College, my bad. Did I leave that out?
That's quite all right.
I'm blaming Monica. It's not her fault, but I'm just going to blame her anyway.
Cook County College Teachers Union, we represent faculty, staff, and professionals, and even some security in the community colleges in the greater Chicagoland area, Cook County. That includes the city colleges of Chicago. It includes places like Triton, Harper, Moraine, Prairie State, South Suburban. So at any community college in the Cook County area, we represent at least one unit there.
And so how many members are there?
A little over 5,000.
Over 5,000. So, and once again, run through the different jobs that are represented by your union.
Yeah. Full-time faculty. We have some adjunct faculty, full and part-time professionals, what are referred to as classified or support, which in other places are referred to as clerical, and security as well.
So it's a very diverse union.
Yes.
So now I know you're here to talk about what's going on at Triton. We'll get to that. But just in general, your thoughts on the city colleges of Chicago and the relationship between the faculty and the people who run them.
It's certainly had its ups and downs. We went through a very stormy period when Cheryl Hyman was chancellor, and Rahm Emanuel taunted his reinvention policies, which we were very much against, especially the idea of consolidating programs in just one community college or city college in Chicago, which forced students to travel long distances. It's not clear under Chancellor Salgado whether they are keeping that policy or whether it's just kind of on hold, but that is, and I would say that in general we have a good working relationship with the administration currently.
Yeah. All right. Now, so just to help people out a little bit, in the old days, at junior college, a kid comes out of high school and for whatever reason, doesn't want to go to a four-year school, or maybe doesn't have the grades to go to a four-year school, or doesn't have the money to go to a four-year school, there was a junior college in his or her area, general area, and you could have a full, diverse a range of choice of courses to choose from. So maybe you wanted to try an English class, maybe you wanted to try a math class, maybe you need a remediation, et cetera, and so forth. It was all there. Mayor Rahm Emanuel had this vision one day, and he woke up and he goes, I know what I'll do. Instead of having these these colleges that have offer this wider range, we'll make them specialty schools. And so that meant suddenly a kid who is living, I'm just making this up, on Wilson Avenue on the north side of Chicago, suddenly can't just go to Truman College to take philosophy. I'm just making this up. And it has to go schlep all the way down to wherever philosophy is chosen. Could be at Wright Junior College or something. Do I have that generally?
Yeah, I mean, the program or the specialty that they went completely with at Malcolm X was the health fields, where they took all of the nursing programs, and there were some very good ones. For example, Truman, and that's my home campus. That's where I'm from. Daly, Kennedy King, Olive Harvey, they all had very good nursing programs. They moved them all to Malcolm X, and the enrollment just tanked because students simply couldn't go from the far south side.
Wait, time out. Enrollment where? At Malcolm X?
Especially for nursing. Yeah, the nursing enrollment actually decreased by 80%.
Across the board, I get you. Yeah. Because, in other words, all of a sudden, it was difficult to get to the classroom if you lived on the far south side or something like that.
That's right. Now, that was the most extensive consolidation, but we're still trying to discuss with the city colleges, and we actually put this in our last contract negotiations, that whenever there would be a program closure or some sort of consolidation like this, that they would have to negotiate the impact of that with the union,
as opposed to
just
unilaterally
right.
ultimatum. This is what you're going to do.
Exactly.
So is there a possibility that the city colleges will be retreating from that position?
It's going to be hard with health fields because so much is technological, and there's a huge amount of resources that have been put in Malcolm X, and it's an incredible facility. Don't get me wrong; it's a great place to go, and we encourage people to go do that. But how do you undo what's been done? Do you start like 1 year nursing, just the first year of nursing at the other colleges and have them then go to Malcolm X? It's really difficult when you do a very bad policy that's so extensive. In the other areas, for example, information technology, which has been consolidated at Wright, there has been some movement back to bring some of these classes to the other colleges. So we're in a discussion with the city college administration to see if we can do more of that.
Mm-hmm. Have the numbers of students gone up in recent years at the city colleges, or is it still declining?
I mean, if you look at the demographic statistics, college-age population is just going down in general in the United States. And so the community college enrollment reflects that. But if you look in the past 5 years, most community college districts have seen some decline because of that, but also you can put the blame on Bruce Rauner too for bludgeoning higher ed during his term. But if you compare, going back to the city colleges, if you compare the decline of the city colleges compared to the other community college districts, the city colleges had a much greater decline. And we believe that's due to the faulty reinvention policies.
Mm. So it exacerbated a process that was already underway. Talk a little bit about your particular background. You said you started your home school was Truman College. Yep. Were you a professor there or a teacher there?
I started actually as what's referred to as a training specialist, and at that time I was facilitating vocational programs in what's referred to as the technical center, which was like cosmetology, auto tech. And then I moved into coordinator of tutoring. And during that time, I also taught as an adjunct. And eventually, I did become a full-time faculty member in history, U.S. and Latin American history.
At Truman.
At Truman.
What years were you teaching there?
I taught as an adjunct going back to 2000, and I began as a full-timer in 2015.
So by and large, what kind of kids, students were in your classroom?
I mean, Truman is an incredible place. It's diverse. It's great to hear people when they first come to Truman because they walk down the halls and they say, I just heard 5 different languages. And so you have this rich, diverse population, but also because they are from many different countries, they have challenges with English skills. And so that's an issue of trying to not only teach them the skills of, in my case, what history is and those historical and analytical skills, but also you're there to, kind of nudge them along with their writing and reading as well.
So when you viewed your challenge, was your challenge to prepare a student for a degree in history, or was your challenge when you're at a junior college to prepare a student for general life by teaching them basic skills?
Yeah, it's not. I don't want to portray it as I was there teaching them English. I mean, you have to incorporate some of those developmental issues along with your curriculum.
So in other words, a heavy emphasis on just like writing an essay, that kind of thing.
And just to say, try not to use the word junior college.
What are you supposed to say?
It's community college.
Community college?
And
Dennis is nodding his head.
Yeah, I went to community collage. I was,
Wait,
no junior college.
Time out. Why? Okay.
And there's nothing wrong with it.
What's the matter with junior college, man? it's just, like a 60s thing.
The term is usually community college.
Right. Yeah. There was a TV show called Community College, wasn't there, D?
Just community.
Sorry. I get everything wrong, man. I got the junior college wrong. Monica's laughing at me right here, right now. All right. So you made your way up. You left the Truman, and you got involved in the union. And right now, there's a strike at Triton. Talk about that.
That is correct. At Triton, as I said, in some of our colleges we represent one unit, but sometimes we represent up to 3 units, and that's the case at Triton. We represent full-time faculty. We represent classified, which are clerical predominantly, and we also represent this particular unit, which is called mid-managers. And mid-managers are generally academic professionals. They provide academic support, but they are not instructional professionals. These would be folks like college advisors, the people who coordinate testing centers, that coordinate tutoring centers, that provide financial aid assistance. All of these duties and roles that are vital for a student to continue to get in to the college in the first place and then to be successful in the college.
And how many mid-managers are we talking about?
This is a relatively small unit. It's a little over 50.
And they're on strike
That's
right
correct.
now as we speak. What are the issues?
Our main issues are Triton refuses to do retro pay. This is I've been involved in union activism for about 15 years now. And to my knowledge, especially in the Chicago area, it is the only community college that has this policy. And just for people to understand exactly what I'm talking about, when a contract expires, many times you continue negotiating to get a contract, but once you have determined what those increases are going to be, it goes retroactive back to the expiration date of the contract. Now that's generally considered the general course of things. And in some cases in the private sector, the reason that they began this is because many years ago, unions were so afraid about not working with a contract that they would just, in the midst of negotiations, if they came to their contract expiring, they would just go out on strike. And the other problem, or I should say the other benefit that retro provides is it also keeps bad managers or bad administrators from pushing the envelope and trying to get, which is essentially what is happening here at Triton, is that they are trying to pressure our unit to take a bad contract by saying we're not going to pay retro pay. So if you keep pushing this, that just means less retro pay you're going to get for this year going back to expiration.
And is that the main issue, the retro
That
pay?
that and they want to impose a schedule on their departments, which would be a strict 8 to 5:30 schedule. And the thing with community colleges, we talked about its diversity, is that many of these departments just use adult education, for example, the places that teach GED and ESL. These are students that usually can only do their classes either in the morning or in the evening, sometimes in the afternoon, but usually it's like a 2 or 4 hour class. And the student services that help these students, they have to be open early to serve the students that come in, that can only come in the morning, and they also have to stay open late for the same reason, for the students that can only come in the evening. And so to impose a strict schedule across the board at Triton, we've implored them to realize that this is bad, not just for us, and in fact it's not really bad. I mean, it's really it's worse for the students, because it'll force many of these departments to cut their hours and not offer as many hours of service, because these mid-managers would, under this proposal, would only teach a certain schedule.
All right,
Work a certain
Let me go back to that retro pay. That's one that's sort of sticking in my brain here for a level. So help me out this. So let's take this point by point. The current contract between Triton and the mid-managers has expired. Am I correct in that?
That is correct.
And when did it expire?
June 30th.
June 30th of
this year.
2019. So it's now been, June 30th. It's like 5 months. They've been on the old contract, correct?
Correct.
And so you've negotiated with Triton an increase in pay. Is that? Am I correct?
That
in
is correct. And then in that respect, we're fine. We're looking at annual increases of 4%.
So in other words, what Triton is saying, now I'm just trying to understand that they're saying, all right, we'll cut this deal with you. We give you 4% raise. So instead of making, I don't know, I'm just making stuff up, $10, you make $14, whatever. But it's just starting now. We're not going back to July 1st is when the contract expired. And I know from writing past stories, like when the police and the firefighters, they negotiate their contracts.
Oh, yeah, it's very common.
They got to budget that. That's that lump payment.
Sure.
Because what really infuriates firefighters and policemen, and I think they have a very strong case, Tony, is that the city is in no hurry to negotiate a contract. So you got cops who are working on 2 years sometimes on an old contract.
Sure.
That would be so unfair, just to say, all right, well, because we dilly-dally for 2 years, delayed things and held things up, we're going to then punish you for that by not giving you the back. Isn't it called back pay sometimes?
Yeah, back pay.
Back pay. Yeah, it's kind of unusual, is it not?
Yes, to refuse to pay retroactive compensation. Like I said, I don't know of any other community college or any other public education district that has that policy.
Are you at the table, you personally?
I didn't start at the table, but when things got difficult, I did.
And so the bargainers on the other side are going, sorry, Tony, man, you're just not getting that retro pay.
Right. They said that's board policy.
Has that always been board policy?
Well, they claim it is, but we've actually got evidence that there has been retroactive pay in the past.
Have the mid-managers ever been on strike before?
Not to my knowledge. I don't believe they have.
And so it's how long has the strike been?
It's a one-day strike.
One-day strike.
We're, because of the size of the unit, we're deciding to just do a one-day strike and see where things go. Like I said, we're doing an informational picketing of this Triton College Foundation Gala tonight. And we're hopeful that, you know, by reaching out to the community that's going to be going to this, and we've had a great day of picketing and being able to talk to students and other members of the community, letting them know about our issues, and we're getting a lot of support.
And do you, you think they're going to compromise with you on this one?
That's our hope. We'll see what happens.
There's some parallels between this one, follow me on this, Tony, and what just went down in Chicago with the teachers union. Because with the teachers union, the teachers were on strike for, I think it was 10 days. Don't quote me, but I think it was 10 days. And so then the mayor said, well, I'm not going to pay you, add those days to the schedule, they're lost days. And then they were, effectively, the teachers, the Board of Education saves money because it'll be a shorter school years. The teachers said, no, we want all 10 days. And they cut a deal. They split it down the middle, had 5 days. And I just saw this in the paper. What a city we live in, Tony. The Board of Education is bragging, hey, we saved $33 million. Yeah, you cut the school year. That's how you, quote unquote, saved it. Is it a similar issue?
What's different in higher ed is that when there's a faculty strike, most of the time they go back and they make up those days because they have to. There's a certain, the buffer zone is very thin as far as the number of hours that you can teach in a semester, a college semester. And so when there's a faculty strike, almost always they will make up those days because the student has to have those days in order to get the college credit for that class. For our other units, like this mid-managers that are hourly or salaried employees, it's a difficult situation because they won't make that up unless we can negotiate that going back in after a strike.
And how long is the contract that you agreed to?
Currently, you mean what we're currently negotiating?
Yes.
Right now, the administration's offer is a 3-year deal, but we're also offering the possibility that it could be as much as 5 years.
Okay. Well, effectively, it's being reduced because every day that you're not getting your retro pay, effectively it's a shorter contract,
exactly.
If you understand what I just said.
Right. And it also dilutes. I mean, 4% is what we believe is a fair and good increase, but with the lack of retro, and the third issue that is part of this current conflict is they want to add extra duty days to their workload that would add up to 16 hours, and they don't want to. They're allowing them to flex some of those hours, but not all of them, and so. With the retro and with these extra duty hours, they're essentially diluting the annual increase that's happening.
Now, do you think other community colleges, the boards for community colleges, are watching what's happening at Triton?
It's possible. Triton in particular is a difficult administration to work with. They've been so traditionally. We represent people at other campuses, I'll just say Prairie State and Moraine Valley, where contract negotiations are not a battle, but at Triton they are a battle.
And just so folks know, when I started talking about community colleges, I say they're in general areas of the city or the suburbs. Triton is in the western suburbs, I want to say.
So River Grove.
River Grove, yeah, which is
correct.
Robert Mueller agrees with you. So they play some hardball politics over there, that
Yes.
Triton board, huh?
Well, the Triton board is led by Mark Stevens of the Stevens family, Rosemont family.
Oh, man.
And so things are just different at Triton. Let me just put it that way.
And they don't play in Rosemont, okay? Of course, when it's their money on the line, I got news for you. If Rosemont was cutting a deal with, say, the Teamsters Union for the Rosemont Horizon or what have you, they'd get their retro pay. So come on, Mark Stevens.
There you go.
All right. Is there any information you want to leave folks with before you head out the door about how they can get in touch with you, or if they want more information about the situation?
Sure, they can go to our social media. Cook County College Teachers Union has its own website and Twitter and Facebook. And all of, for example, there's a petition that people can sign in support of the mid-managers and our contract campaign. And they can also email the board of Triton to say, let's get a contract.
All right, very good. Tony, thanks for coming on the show, and best of luck to you and your union going forth. Come on, retro pay. I didn't think in this day and age we were arguing over retro pay. I know the police officers of Chicago are going to be with you on this one.
All right.
Because that's a really important issue for them. Because I think their contract is 2 years behind. Don't quote me on that, but it's been a while since it expired. All right, Tony Johnston, thank you so much for coming on. Also want to thank Adolfo Mondragon and Monroe Anderson, who were in the show earlier in the day. And, of course, what?
Well, I just want to let everybody know, our colleagues at the Chicago Reader, they just released their Best of 2019.
That is correct.
Best of Chicago 2019 list. And tomorrow on the Ben Joravsky Show, guys, you don't want to miss it, we're going to find out the winners. The best restaurant, best alderman, best overall Chicago neighborhood, and more. By the way, spoiler alert, best podcast, not the Ben Joravsky Show.
Come on.
Damn it.
Damn. We got to start fixing that vote. No, just kidding. That would not be ethical. Anyway, all right.
Tune in tomorrow, everybody.
Tune in tomorrow, indeed. That man, that voice is, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, the pride and joy of Alton, Illinois. Back home, they call him the doctor. Good job. Give yourself a raise. Take it out of petty cash.
What about White Lightning?
Oh, and they also call him White Lightning. Yes, indeed. They call him White Lightning. Give yourself a raise. Take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
Hey, and remember, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows and Benny J bonus interviews at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites, chicago.suntimes.com, chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you download your favorite podcast. Speaking of those bonus interviews, we got a special bonus interview. He's on his way now. Brother of Stacey Davis Gates of the Chicago Teachers Union and former South Bend mayoral candidate. He went against Mayor Pete. His name's Henry Davis. I almost called him Henry Davis Gates. That would be wrong. His name's Henry Davis. We're going to have that available for download. And hey, if you listen on the download, check us out on the live stream, Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel. We'll see you tomorrow.
After years of neglect, Illinois is finally getting its mojo back.